Welcome back to Leeds Lately. Before we get into this video, if you could just hit that subscribe button down below, that would really help me out. But today's video is about Joe Rodon. We will be making a video about Max Aarons as well. I just finished recording that, literally was about to edit it, but I opened Twitter on my phone and this has come up. Basically, Bournemouth have hijacked the deal for Max Aarons, so you won't get a video on Max Aarons, you'll get a video on whoever else it is that we might try and sign at fullback. Bournemouth have hijacked the deal, so that's what happens when you're in the Premier League. A tiny little club can take it off a massive club just because you're in a different division, but that's the way things go, that's the way the cookie crumbles. There won't be a video on him, there'll be a video on somebody else. We're talking about Joe Rodon because it has been broken by Phil Hay and McGrath, I think, as well, saying that Joe Rodon is going to be on loan to Leeds United from Tottenham Hotspur, and it will be a loan to buy if Leeds get promoted, is what the assumption is. I don't know if that's confirmed, but that is the assumption, that if we get promoted, it will be a loan to buy. But at the moment, just a loan. So 25-year-old Welsh centre-half. He's played more games internationally for Wales than he actually has for Spurs, but that was a signing made by Jose Mourinho that didn't really work out when Jose Mourinho really wanted somebody like Bastoni from Inter Milan and couldn't get him, and in the end they got Joe Rodon from Swansea. But he has had a few loan spells and in which he's done quite well, and the one we're going to talk about today is his loan to Rennes, which is obviously last season. So the first thing we're going to talk about is a little bit of what FB Ref like to do, where they compare similar players to Joe Rodon. So when they compare similar players, it is over the last 365 days, they have to have played a similar amount of minutes to the player that you're comparing, and in the top 5 leagues as well, comparable leagues. So when we look at the company that Joe Rodon is keeping in terms of the way he plays, you're likely to see Alessio Romagnoli from Lazio, who has been a very, very solid Italian centre-half for a good number of years now, and Leonardo Bonucci, who even more so has been an absolute stalwart of Juventus and Italian national teams over the last couple of years, and then Jonathan Tah as well at Leverkusen, who is obviously a very, very competent centre-back as well. So he's keeping good company in the sorts of players that he's being compared to. And the reason for this is a lot to do with the way that he plays in possession. Now, one of the most important things about Joe Rodon is his ability to play with the ball. His ability to pass the ball cannot be understated, and that is one of the biggest reasons why Daniel Farke would have wanted him in this system, because he wants somebody who can receive the ball off the goalkeeper, play a pass into the midfielder, or even better, somebody who is able to carry the ball a little bit into midfield or make some decent long passes, and we'll get into those statistics shortly. But the first thing we're going to talk about is his pass completion. Now, passes completed per 90, 53.74, which puts him in the 75th percentile. Now, percentiles, for those of you who don't know, it's quite simple. If he's in the 75th percentile, it means that he's in the top 25% of players. Like I said, compared to similar leagues, you get it. But yes, 53.74, so it puts him in the top 25% of players completing passes as centre-backs, and he also attempts 60, so he attempts about 6 or 7 more than he actually completes, but that puts him in the 83rd percentile for pass completion percentage, because he has 88.9 pass completion percentage, which is really, really good, and especially for a centre-half, that's really good. And also his passing distance is high, puts him in the 84th percentile, because that's 1,126 yards per 90, puts him in the 84th percentile, which is really, really good for a centre-half. It shows that when he does get the ball and he does pass it, he gets some distance on them, he progresses the ball well, and that is shown by his pass percentage completion with long passes, which is 74.7%. So that actually puts him in the 92nd percentile. So it bears what we were saying, that he likes to get the ball forward, he's good at it, he makes most of his passes quite accurately, and he'll link up with somebody like Ethan Ampadu in the midfield and then Dan James on the wing. Having already played with them quite a lot for the national team, could be a really, really good way to bed him into the team early. But yeah, early signs are that he's really, really good at keeping on to possession. He's quite press resistant as well when people are actually getting close to him and trying to take the ball off him, he's still able to make those passes. So I think that's really a really important thing to have. Next thing we're going to talk about is a little bit of a weird one. So it's his defensive statistics. Now, if anybody's gone onto a statistics website and looked at his defensive stats, you'll see that really on the face of it, they look absolutely terrible. But when we actually look at it a little bit deeper, there could be some extenuating circumstances. So when you look at his tackles per 90, 0.76, which puts him in the 4th percentile, which is really, really low. Tackles won, 0.35 per 90, which puts him in the 2nd percentile. So he's actually not even making 1 tackle per game. But when you actually look at his challenges lost, so when he actually does go into a challenge, challenges lost per 90, 0.25, which puts him in the 88th percentile, which is really, really good for challenges lost. And when you look at his shots blocked as well, which I think is important, 0.86 per 90, which puts him in the 79th percentile. So to me, there's a few, like I said, extenuating circumstances with this one. The first one is that he played in a back 3 at Rennes, so you're not going to see as much of the ball in a defensive sense trying to make tackles. If you've got 3, simple logic, you've got an extra player in there, you split the tackles between 3 of them rather than 2 of them, and he's not going to see as much, especially because he was primarily playing in the centre of that, especially in one of the games that I looked at where they played against PSG and won 1-0 and kept a clean sheet. He played in the centre of that back 3. And so, yeah, he's not going to get as much tackling done in that area of the pitch. The other thing is Rennes only conceded 39 goals all season and came 4th in Ligue 1, which is 39 goals conceded is 1 less than PSG, who won the league in 1st. So obviously, Rennes dominated possession, dominated the ball, were really good defensively, and didn't often let teams have a chance to attack them. So that could be a factor of why they are so much lower. I've seen a lot of clips, done the eye test, had a look at his actual tackling, and when he does go in for tackles, he makes tackles, and he makes a lot of tackles very cleanly. When we look at his miscellaneous stats, as FBref categorizes them, let's have a look at this. Aerials 1, where is it? Oh, his yellow cards. 0.15 per 90, which puts him in the 71st percentile. So he doesn't actually make that many fouls. 0.86 fouls per 90. So less than 1 foul per 90 puts him in the 61st percentile. So quite a bit above average there. Red cards, he obviously must have received 1 this season because 0.05 red cards per 90. But yeah, that could have been anything. I haven't dug that deep to find out what that red card was. But yeah, all players have had red cards. Berardi used to get red cards all the time, and we absolutely loved him. But yeah, penalty kicks conceded, 0. So yeah, he's quite a defender who won't be throwing in for every single tackle, but when he does, he's likely to win the ball, not give many fouls away, which is something that we've lacked because we've seen that we've given a lot of free kicks away in silly positions over the last couple of years, and it's cost us a lot of goals. So I think it's important actually to highlight that. The other thing as well, possession stats. Successful take-on percentage, so him taking on other players, 75%, which puts him in the 78th percentile. So 75% of the time when he's trying to take someone, he manages to do it, which puts him in the 78th percentile for centre-backs. And the reason that I bring this up is because it's him bringing the ball into midfield and carrying it out, much like what Charlie Cresswell did a little bit against Cardiff in that first game. And Farke likes it where if the opposition team are pressing you, if you've got a centre-back who can break that press just by carrying the ball out, which he can when you look at his carries, 51.81 carries per 90, which puts him in the 86th percentile, and his total carrying distance, 276.13. I think it's yards per 90, which puts him in the 84th percentile. So his carrying distance is really, really good. He likes to carry it out quite a lot. Carries into the penalty area as well, which I think is quite a strange one for a centre-back. 0.05, which puts him in the 74th percentile for centre back, so he's obviously done that once or twice last season. Another thing though that I think is interesting is his miscontrols, 0.25 per 90, which puts him in the 83rd percentile. All too many times we've seen somebody like Pascal Struijk or Liam Cooper take a bad touch and either slide in and make a foul because they're trying to make up for it, or they've actually given the ball away and the opposition are able to go and get a shot off. But Joe Rodon doesn't do that very often. He holds onto the ball really well, and doesn't make too many miscontrols, which I think is also another important factor. That was a lot of statistics. Let's talk about the eye test a little bit before we finish. Joe Rodon is a confident defender. He needs a home where he can actually get regular football, and especially if Leeds are a promotion candidate, I think he'll probably see a long-term future there, especially with the likes of Ethan Ampadu and Dan James, who he plays in the national team with. I think he'll settle in well and quickly, given the style of player that he is. He's sort of a perfect match for Farke, and obviously that's why Nick Hammond and Greta Steinson will have identified him as a target. So I think he'd settle in quickly. I think he'd do really well at Leeds. I think in the Championship, he's already proved at Swansea that he's a very, very good Championship defender, hence why Spurs bought him in the first place. So in general, I think it's a no-brainer, and especially on a loan with an option to buy, or maybe an obligation to buy, as it might be. We don't know 100% on that yet. If we go up, I think it's a no-brainer. I think it's already being done, the medical and all that sort of thing. So I think it's important that we get embedded in quickly, and that he might even be available before the weekend, because we only actually have Pascal Struijk and Charlie Cresswell available as centre-backs, other than youth academy centre-backs. So it's important that we get Joe Rodon in quickly and potentially get him into that lineup for the weekend, or at least on the bench. That has been it for Leeds Lately, and I'll see you next time.